All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're exploring the top 10 greatest characters in fighting game history. Fighting games are a totally unique beast in the gaming world because they completely live and die by their rosters. A bad character can totally sink a game, but a truly great one? Well, they do something far more spectacular. They literally define entire generations of play. So, this brings up a really core question. What actually makes a fighting game character truly immortal? Well, the source material we're breaking down today points out that the greatest fighters actually transcend their own franchises. They don't just stay boxed into their original arcade cabinets. They become massive, industry-wide gaming icons. They influence the designs and the mechanical archetypes of future characters across the whole board. And they stay intensely relevant decades after they first debuted. For this explainer, we're strictly focusing on characters born from dedicated fighting game franchises. And we're looking at both their cultural footprint and their mechanical brilliance. So let's drop our virtual quarters into the machine and kick off our countdown at number 10. Coming in hot at the number 10 spot is none other than Iori Yagami. He made his arcade debut on the Neo Geo with the King of Fighters 95, and he is the absolute perfect example of a major archetype, the anti-hero rival. With his striking crimson hair, those signature purple flames, and a notoriously unstable personality, Iori became the dark counterpart to Kyo Kusanagi. But it wasn't just his aesthetic that he made a legend, right? It was his mechanics. His intense, rushdown-heavy gameplay style practically forces you to get up close and personal. It heavily rewards highly skilled players who can just maintain relentless pressure. Nearly 30 years later, that perfectly tuned aggression keeps him as one of SNK's most recognizable and widely played characters. Moving seamlessly down the arcade ladder to number 9. Get over here. You can literally hear it perfectly in your head, can you? That might just be the single most famous line in all of fighting game history. At number 9, we've got Mortal Kombat's Scorpion. His incredible ninja design, combined with that iconic spear attack and a genuinely tragic backstory of vengeance, completely established Mortal Kombat's identity right from the original arcade release. Think about it. So many characters have come and gone in that franchise over the years, jumping across all these different dimensions and timelines, but Scorpion remains the undisputed, enduring symbol of the series. He's starred in countless storylines and stands as one of gaming's most quoted characters worldwide. Keeping the rhythm going, we're dropping into the 8th spot. Number 8 brings us to Tekken's King. Now, the crazy thing about King is just the absolute contrast. I mean, a professional wrestler wearing a jaguar mask sounds completely ridiculous on paper. But in practice, King became one of the coolest, most unique character designs in all of gaming. And he didn't just look cool, he fundamentally revolutionized grappler gameplay with his signature chain throws. Instead of just grabbing an opponent once, King was actually designed to reward players who were willing to sit down and truly master incredibly complex sequential command inputs, all to string together these massive health bar erasing grappling combos. Because of that unmatched mechanic, he has remained immensely popular and completely feared across every single generation of Tekken. Leaving the 3D arenas behind for a second, number 7 takes us right back to the golden era of the Neo Geo arcades. At number 7, we have Terry Bogard from Fatal Fury. Long before a lot of modern fighting game mascots even existed, Terry was definitively SNK's golden boy. He's instantly recognizable with his red cap, his sleeveless jacket, and his completely laid-back attitude. And actually, that attitude was revolutionary at the time. In an era that was just packed with overly serious, brooding martial artists, Terry was just a friendly guy who asked, "Are you okay?" right before hitting you with a devastating Buster Wolf. That distinct, approachable persona helped him become one of the most beloved heroes in the genre. For over 3 decades, his massive influence on countless fighting game protagonists literally cannot be overstated, which is exactly why you see him continually popping up in massive crossover titles even today. Up next, hitting the number 6 spot, number 6 goes to Morrigan Ansland from Darkstalkers, The Night Warriors. It's fascinating because very few characters remain culturally relevant when their main franchise has been largely dormant for years. Yet Morrigan's unmistakable silhouette, her distinct personality, and her incredibly fluid animation have made her one of Capcom's most enduring creations. Mechanically, her air dash mobility and versatile projectile game helped Darkstalkers stand completely apart from the slower, more grounded fighters of its time. Today, she remains one of Capcom's absolute most popular characters, acting as a major, high-tier presence in almost every major crossover event they produce. Okay, we are officially crossing the halfway mark. Time for the top 5. Taking the number 5 spot is Chun-Li from the legendary Street Fighter II.
Chun-Li literally changed gaming history. When she debuted in 1991, she broke massive barriers by becoming the very first female fighting game superstar. In a genre that was entirely dominated by male fighters at the time, she proved that women could be absolute marquee characters, paving the way for virtually every single female fighter that followed. Furthermore, her gameplay design was just flawless. Her signature moves, the lightning kick and a spinning bird kick, are still among the most universally recognizable special moves ever created. She's been a global icon and an essential driver of Street Fighter's success for decades. Dropping in at number 4, we're looking at someone who isn't just a fighting game legend, but honestly one of the greatest villains in all of gaming. It's Heihachi Mishima from Tekken. Look, let's be real. No fighting game villain has thrown more family members off cliffs than Heihachi. As the iron-fisted patriarch of the Mishima Zaibatsu, he became the absolute centerpiece of Tekken's legendary, long-running family saga. Everything about him is iconic, from his ruthless, power-hungry personality to his famous gravity-defying hairstyle. He completely embodies Tekken's identity. And unlike villains who just hang out in the background, Heihachi gets right in your face with devastatingly heavy strikes. He is consistently powerful, remarkably memorable, and the dramatic anchor in one of gaming's longest-running narratives. All right, we're down to the top 3, and we are setting up the ultimate family rivalry here. Taking the bronze at number 3 is Heihachi's own son, Kazuya Mishima. And this brilliantly illustrates the depth of the Tekken series. Where Heihachi represents pure, ruthless patriarchy, Kazuya's story gave us one of the genre's most compelling character arcs. Kazuya actually helped elevate fighting game storytelling entirely beyond just simple, flat tournament setups. We watched his deep transformation from a victim into a terrifying devil gene-wielding villain over multiple decades. On top of that heavy narrative weight, competitive players absolutely revere him. His Mishima-style techniques, culminating in the legendary Electric Wind God Fist, require incredibly demanding frame-perfect execution, making him one of the most technically rewarding fighters ever created.
The suspense is building. Just missing the top spot, our runner-up at number 2 is Mortal Kombat's Sub-Zero. Now, while we noted earlier that Scorpion is the ultimate mascot of the franchise, you could easily argue that Sub-Zero is the character most responsible for Mortal Kombat's incredible longevity from a gameplay perspective. This blue ninja possesses cryomancy powers that completely changed how people approached combos and zoning. I mean, the ability to literally freeze your opponents in place was uniquely striking and brilliantly adapted across virtually every major era of the series. His iconic power set is universally recognizable, and his intense, blood-soaked rivalry with Scorpion easily became one of the absolute greatest, most legendary feuds in all of video gaming. Now, before we drop the curtain and reveal the undisputed champion of our countdown, we've got to take a rapid-fire pit stop to acknowledge these honorable mentions: Akuma, Mai Shiranui, Jin Kazama, Soul Bad Guy, and Geese Howard. According to the source material, these characters just narrowly missed the top 10. Whether their mechanics were just a tiny bit too niche or their franchises slightly less ubiquitous, they still absolutely remain among the most influential and brilliantly designed figures ever to step foot into a virtual arena. And now, the moment we've all been building toward, the number 1 spot. Taking the crown as the absolute greatest fighting game character in history is Ryu from Street Fighter. Look, the crucial point here is that no character better represents fighting games than Ryu. He is the definitive protagonist. This wandering martial artist literally became the blueprint for countless characters across the entire gaming industry, establishing what we now call the Shoto archetype. Even if you've never played a fighting game in your life, you know his moves. The Hadouken Fireball, the Shoryuken Uppercut, the Tatsumaki Senpukyaku. These are, without question, among the most famous moves in video game history. They taught millions of players the fundamental geometry of fighting games: projectiles, anti-airs, and spacing. As the face of the most influential fighting game franchise ever created, Ryu has remained the absolute gold standard by which all other fighting game characters are measured for nearly 4 decades. He doesn't just represent Street Fighter, he symbolizes the fighting game genre itself. And that wraps up our explainer for today. But hey, I want to hand the arcade stick back to you for a second. When you look at this incredible legacy of digital fighters, who is your player 1? Does Ryu rightfully hold the crown for you, or does a new challenger await in your own personal top spot? Keep exploring these amazing rosters, keep practicing those combos, and until next time, keep fighting.